Today we'll be installing the PNW range dropper post lever. In this example, we'll walk you through how to install just the lever. For instructions on how to install the lever, cable housing, and cable, please refer to one of our internally routed dropper manuals. If you have an existing dropper lever, you'll need to remove that lever first. You will likely need a 3, 4, or 5 mm Allen wrench, and you may need to remove your grips and/or other cockpit items to remove your existing lever. Once your existing dropper lever is removed, or if you didn't have an existing dropper lever, we're ready to install the new lever. For installation with the range lever, open the lever clamp, wrap it around the bar, and drop the through bolt into the clamp hole to hold it in place. You'll notice that the lever has 3 bolt mounting positions for attaching the clamp. For lever placement, choose whichever mounting position gives you the desired lever placement for your setup. This may take a couple tries to find your preferred lever location. Use a 4 mm Allen wrench to tighten the range lever mount to no greater than 4 Nm using a torque wrench. It's important to follow proper torque settings for all cockpit items, including the dropper lever. Handlebar max torque ratings will vary by manufacturer and material of the handlebar. Over-tightening may cause damage to the handlebar, potentially resulting in serious injury. If you already have an existing cable and housing installed, feed the cable through the housing cap. Feed the cable through the lever's barrel adjuster and seat the housing end cap into place. Slide the cable under the 3 mm cable anchor bolt, and with the lever in its default position, hold the excess and tighten the cable bolt. Cycle the lever 4 or 5 times to remove any slack from the system. If there is significant lever play, loosen the 3 mm anchor bolt and retighten the cable. If there is minimal play, use the barrel adjuster on the lever to remove slack from the system. Be careful here. If you remove too much slack using the barrel adjuster, you may create too much cable tension, partially actuating the dropper post. Once the lever and dropper are functioning as intended, trim the cable behind the lever using cable cutters. Install the cable crimp and crimp tightly to avoid fraying the cable. If you're installing new cable and housing, follow along with the next steps. Now for the fun part, internally routing your dropper cable and cable housing. As each frame has a different design, we recommend following your frame manufacturer's instructions for routing your internally routed cable. Once the lever is mounted to the handlebar and the housing is installed inside your bike frame, we'll be measuring our cable housing length. We found the easiest way is to seat the cable housing into the bottom of the dropper without the inner cable installed yet. Push the dropper post into the seat tube to your desired saddle height while pulling the cable housing gently through the front of the frame at the same pace. Be careful as to not pull the housing too quickly, as it will lose connection with the bottom of the dropper and your measurements will then be inaccurate. Remove the end cap of the cable housing while pulling on the cable end. Hold your cable housing to your lever's barrel adjuster to estimate the proper cable housing length. Make sure you have enough cable housing to turn your handlebars completely by 90 degrees. This ensures the cable won't be too tight if the bars were to twist during an accident, or so long that they're flopping around during your ride. Cut the cable housing at the same spot you held to the lever's barrel adjuster. As they say, measure twice and cut once. Next, you'll be removing the dropper from the frame while pushing the cable housing back through the bike. Insert the inner cable into the housing, starting at the dropper post end of the housing. Place the cable end into the bottom of the dropper post. You'll see a slot where you can slide the inner cable through while pivoting so that the cable end sits in the actuator cradle. Next, insert the dropper post back into the seat tube while pulling cable housing through the frame as you did before. This time, the excess cable will extend out of the lever end of the cable housing. Feed the cable through the housing cap. Feed the cable through the lever's barrel adjuster and seat the housing end cap into place. Slide the cable under the 3 mm cable anchor bolt, and with the lever in its default position, hold the excess and tighten the cable bolt. Cycle the lever 4 or 5 times to remove any slack from the system. If there is significant lever play, loosen the 3 mm anchor bolt and retighten the cable. If there is minimal play, use the barrel adjuster on the lever to remove slack from the system. Be careful here. If you remove too much slack using the barrel adjuster, you may create too much cable tension, partially actuating the dropper post. Once the lever and dropper are functioning as intended, trim the cable behind the lever using cable cutters. Install the cable crimp and crimp tightly to avoid fraying the cable. Next, you're going to reinstall the saddle into the saddle rails and tighten to the desired position. Adjust your saddle to your desired position, and lastly tighten the saddle clamp bolts to between 8 and 10 Newton meters. Set your new dropper seat post to your desired height, and tighten the seat collar bolt to your frame manufacturer's recommended torque settings. It's important to follow your frame manufacturer's recommended torque setting, as this varies between manufacturers. For additional install instructions, please check out our dropper seat post and lever install manuals located at PNWcomponents.com. You can also reach out to info@pnwcomponents.com with any questions. With that said, it's time to go shred.